Back in the 90s, it was as though everyone in the gaming industry was trying to create their own mascot.
Nintendo had Mario and Sega had Sonic. But for every Mario and Sonic, there's a Rystar, Alex Kidd, and Bubsy Bobcat. But there's one mascot who managed to carry on existing within the subconscious of gamers despite not appearing in his own game since 1999. You know who he is. Gex the Gecko. This small, mostly carnivorous lizard first appeared on the infamous 3DO console in 1995, after a difficult development period. The first game, aptly titled Gex, later saw port for both the PlayStation 1 and Sega Saturn. Gex was received surprisingly well by critics. Many praised the graphics and mechanics, and Dana Gould's voice work as Gex. Crystal Dynamics took advantage of the 3DO's advanced and modern CD technology to make Gex the wisecracking, pop culture referencing, one-liner spewing, fourth wall breaking character we all know today. I don't care for the first Gex, it ain't no Super Mario World or Sonic 3 and Knuckles. But we're not here to talk about Gex on 3DO. I'm here to talk about the sequel that came along 3 years later, Gex, Enter the Gecko. Yet again developed by Crystal Dynamics, Enter the Gecko was released on Sony's PlayStation in Europe on January 31st and February 24th in North America. The Japanese version of the game released in late 98. It was later ported to the N64 in August. This version featured a bonus underwater level based on Titanic. Oh wow! Well done, Nintendo 64. You're really asserting your dominance in the gaming scene with an underwater bonus level. Taking inspiration from the Mario series, the team decided Gex should make the move from a 2D platformer to a 3D collectathon in the same vein as Super Mario 64. Dana Gould reprises his role as Gex, though interestingly he was replaced in the UK version of the game by Leslie Phillips, who is best known for his appearances in the British Carry On series of comedy films throughout the 60s. Then in the third game, Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko, the UK version of that game featured Danny John Jules as the voice of Gex. He's best known for playing the role of Cat in Red Dwarf. Ow! Getting into the game, we start off with an intro cinematic which sees Gex being recruited by some government agents to help save the media dimension, which sounds like something Chris Chan would have made up. From Rez, the villain from the first game. Gex agrees after being given a tuxedo, as this game is going for a James Bond-esque overtone, for some reason. Aside from this cutscene being quite ugly looking and being overly long, the cutscene decides to feature a weird reference to Supermarket Sweep, which was a popular game show at the time in the UK.
For 2 years, I started my day watching Supermarket Sweep.
The American version of the game, the show Gex is watching, is called Kung Fu Theater, which is an in-universe show that actually has a smidgen of relevancy to the game's actual plot.
2 years I started my day watching Kung Fu Theater.
I guess they really thought those of us in the UK were going to get a real kick out of that line. Before we can start playing, we have to sit through a prolonged sequence that takes us through a showreel of all the areas we'll be forced to endure. The worst part is that it's unskippable. The best you can do is fast forward through it. That means these guys were that proud of this sequence, and it's crap. Taking another cue from Super Mario 64, you can access levels through a bland hub world, the same way you can jump through paintings in Peach's castle. The levels have stupid names like Trouble in Uranus and Poltergex. The most infuriating level title is the Texas Chainsaw Manicure, which really should be the Gexus Chainsaw Manicure, or Massacre, I don't know. It's clear they weren't really putting much effort into the level titles and their themes. I'm not even sure if the titles have any actual relevancy to the levels themselves.
Imagine if you were tasked with creating a level based around Die Hard, and the best possible name for that level that you could conjure up from the depths of your mind was Fart Hard. That's how good these titles are. Not very.
The first level you're gonna end up playing probably is in the Toontown world. In this world, you'll hear the heinously terrible music. You'll get a feel for the wonky controls and fight with the in-game camera. Luckily, you're given the option to set the camera to manual, meaning you get to move it when it suits you. Unfortunately, there isn't any DualShock controller support, despite the controller coming out a year prior to this game's release. There's very little to the game. In terms of gameplay, it's majorly unoriginal. And that's the game's biggest issue. It's devoid of any and all originality. It offers nothing more than outdated quips. I could say that Gex Enter the Gecko is mainly style over substance, but there is no style and there is no substance. Gex can walk on some surfaces, which adds an extra level of verticality to the levels. It's a shame they didn't go further with this mechanic, as they instead prioritised the stereotypical themes for its creatively bankrupt levels. In the final cutscene after Gex defeats Rez, we see Gex get ready for a good time with a realistically proportioned human woman? Did you know that Sonic was originally going to have a human girlfriend called Madonna? But before she could appear in a game, she got scrapped because, the concept, it's weird. It's weird. This kid's game has an interspecies relationship.
This is worse than Big Rigs, and that barely even qualifies as a game.
At least Big Rigs is funny. You can point and laugh at the incompetency of it all. Gex literally feels like an attempt on my life with how devoid of originality it is. An elite team of monkeys, given enough time, could come up with something funnier and more transformative than Gex. This game is like Super Mario 64, but if it was the most naff crap you've ever had the misfortune to play. Gex, the son of a Gex! And before you ask, no, I am not having a mental breakdown. I'm having a mental Gex-down. And you know what's really weird about this game in particular? It was directed by Glenn Schofield. You know, the man behind Dead Space. I'm actually horrified that people want to see Gex make a comeback. So he could do what exactly? Reference films that came out within the last 20 years? The referential humour found in Gex games simply isn't funny, and it's definitely the opposite of timeless.
That's it. I have to stop this Gecko, once and for all. Yo, Gex. Ooh. Gecko, chop this! I hate Gex. I don't like Gex.